Hi, I'm Doug from 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast, and welcome to another episode of the ChickenHead Chronicles. I think this is like episode 38, 39. I lose track of these. Recently, I made the decision about my Commodore 8-bit setups and decided that my main 8-bit Commodore machine that I'm going to keep out all the time is going to be my Commodore 128 DCR. I did an episode a few weeks ago and went over that whole thing. I'll show it to you here in a minute. With my new setup, 128 DCR, not only do I use it to play some Commodore 64 games and goof around, but I want to use it for Commodore 128 application and productivity software. I'm one of those weirdos, and there's a couple of us out there that really dig the cool original productivity software. Now, of course, GEOS is at the top of the list, and I do use GEOS on this and have a lot of fun with it, but that's going to be its own episode. Someday I'm going to come out with episode 2 of GEOS, and I'm also going to do an episode or two concentrating on CPM, which is really powerful on the Commodore 128, and there's some really cool software. We'll do that another time also. Now, this will be Commodore 128 centric for the next couple of episodes of this, but there are Commodore 64 versions of everything that I'm going to be talking about in the next couple of episodes. If you want to see some of the Commodore 64 versions, just let me know and I'll do some episodes specifically on that too. But I love the 128 versions because of the beautiful 80-column mode, the extra memory, the easy access to the fast 1571 drives. It really makes it feel powerful. So for our first foray into application software for the Commodore 128 in this series, I'm going to be talking about PocketWriter 3. Fantastic word processor, really cool. Now, finally found the perfect word processor. I've done a couple episodes in the past on Fleet Writer. I've talked about, Fleet Systems 3 and WordWriter and a couple of others that are actually really good, but finally found the perfect one. I got a copy of Paperback Writer probably a year or two ago, won it on eBay, and discovered it was really, really fantastic software. What I really liked about it was that you could use every single drive available in the Commodore system. Drive 8, Drive 9, Drive 10, Drive 11, because, this day and age, I've got a ton of different drives. And with my Ultimate 1541-2, that thing itself can emulate 2 drives. So why not use them? The big frustration I had with all of these other packages, whether it's on the Commodore 64 or the Commodore 128, is they would offer support for multiple drives as long as it was drive 8, either Unit 0 or Unit 1, like the Commodore PET 4040 drives. But the thing is, they never made those specifically for the Commodore 64. They talked about them for years, but they never made them. So it's completely useless. All these programs, oh yeah, you want to save that to drive 8, Unit 0 or Unit 1? Which one? Neither, because those drives don't exist, you morons. We have drive 8, drive 9, drive 10, drive 11. Those exist. Those are usable. But none of these applications directly supported it. So that got me looking deeper into Paperback Writer after I discovered I could use all the drive letters. And I soon learned that they changed the name of it in the 80s for legal reasons, and they shipped newer versions called PocketWriter, like you see running behind me. And they came out with a whole series of PocketWriter, Pocket Planner, Pocket Filer, which is their database program. We're going to cover them all eventually. And they made these up until version 3 of PocketWriter and version 2 of the other ones. They were still producing this up through the 90s, the early 90s, which was really cool. Now, they're hard to find nowadays. You see them pop up every now and again on eBay, but they're not the easiest thing to find. And they're hard to find online because they had some pretty serious copy protection on them. Now, I was blessed that I found some copies, and I'll link to them, that are in G64 format, which is basically, it's like D64, except it can keep all of the copy protection intact and emulate an actual drive with copy protection. Works absolutely perfect on my 1541 Ultimate 2 Plus that I covered a few weeks ago. So let's pop on over to my machine and let's take a closer look at PocketWriter for the Commodore 128. I think you'll like what you find. So in PocketWriter, when you first boot it up, you see it's going to give you this list of printers that you can use. And it's got most of the popular ones. And you can also use ASCII driver or create your own printer driver. Now I've got a nice Okidata 120 on mine, so I'm going to go ahead and launch that. So if you notice, it said it was copying things to RAM. Well, what does that exactly mean? The Commodore 128 has 128K of RAM, which is great. But the cool thing is this has complete support for the REU, which comes up as an actual RAM disk right here. Look at all these blocks free on there. I've got it set up as a 512K RAM disk on my Ultimate 1541, but it will work with a real REU too. And I've got it configured to automatically put some important files over into the RAM disk. Now, what's this little thing moving on the screen here? That, my friends, is the Commodore 1351 mouse, which also works perfect with the program. And you go up to the top here and you can literally access drop-down menus on the top, which is really, really cool. Now, I don't often use the mouse with it because keyboard commands work absolutely perfect with it, but it 100% supports accessing things with the mouse. Now, I've told you that the unit can access all of the drives on your computer. It does it in kind of an interesting way. When you hit the Commodore key on the lower left-hand corner, it brings you up into this alternate menu up here. You see it has options like return to edit, load a file, save a file. If you hit 0 through 9, directory of a specified drive, look what happens. Like if I hit 0, it's going to pull up a directory of whatever's in drive 8. Yes, I know drive 0 and drive 8 are two different things, but you'll understand it more in a second. That's what's on drive 8. Now, if I went to look at a directory, and again, Commodore key, press number 1, it's going to try and look on drive 1, drive not ready. I don't have anything in it. Drive 2, that is the REU, the RAM drive, which is also recoverable. It survives a reset, which is really cool. And then let's look at drive 3, which I have configured as my 1571, my external 1571 on device 10. And you've got drive 4, which is my 1581 drive. Look at that, 2,116 blocks free. So cool. Now here's the awesome thing right here. We've just looked up the directory on here. I can use my cursor keys to go up to any of these files right here. Like here's my Patreon list here. You literally just hit enter on it. It loads it right up. You don't even have to, remember the name or anything like that. It'll just load it from the flippin' directory that you've just listed on the screen and bring everything up right there. Look at my happy little patrons. Aren't they wonderful? So how do you actually configure it for multiple drives? Look at this. We're going to load up drive 0 again. You're going to find a file on here called configuration. So I'm going to scroll up. I can just scroll right up and we're going to find configure. There it is, configure. I'm going to load that up. Here, we can tell it to use a default printer. Like if I put ASCII.pf here or Okidata120.pf, it would automatically load that printer without asking me every time I boot the program. I intentionally don't do that because I switch between printers fairly frequently. Here you can change the colors of various things. You can change the on-screen colors to any of the 16 nice colors that the VDC supports. You can change some of the highlight colors. Now here, assign 0. All right. What this means is when we look at drive 0, we're looking at the first drive 0, device 8. Assign 1, drive 0, device 9. Assign 2 equals RAM drive, okay? 3, 0, 10. Drive 4, 0, 11. And look at this. Assign 5, 0, 12. And that's the onboard pseudo hard drive interface that can be used with the the ultimate 1541, and it actually sort of almost works. Now, by default, it's only going to have 0, 1 in the RAM drive assigned. You assign these manually. You can have up to 8 drives assigned. If you had a Commodore PET 4040 on here that has 2 devices, drive 0 and drive 1, and you had 4 of those stacked on top of each other, if your floor could actually support it, you could have assigned 0, 0, 8, assign 1, 1, 8. This would be 0, 9. This would be 1, 9. You could have 8 flipping drives assigned on here in one program, which is actually really cool. You can change a couple of other things here. Like here, when you saw the overlays being loaded to the RAM disk, you can tell that on or off. Really kind of cool. You can configure some good features. When you're ready to save it after you've made your changes, Commodore key, lowercase s for save, and hit enter. Replace existing, yes. Now, a good idea, of course, is to make backups of these things in case something happens to your original disk. So what I can do, I've saved that. Now I'm going to hit the Commodore key again. Save. Look at this. I can just change it to device 4, which I know is my 1581 drive, and it saves my configuration file to my 1581 drive. So if I screw it up, I can just copy it back over. Pretty cool, huh? Let's get into actually using the program. Let's start with just something simple here. We're going to go with my patron list. Now we've loaded up the patron list right here. That works just fine. What can we do with the program? Now, of course, you can just start typing things in. Here is a happy test of this fine program. All right. Now, how do we do things with this now? What can we do? If you want to alter the text, like make it bold so it prints out bold, you can hit the Control key and hit B. Now, see how that turned white? All of that text is now bold. You can hit Control I. All of the text is now underlined. And I happen to have this on centered right here. So it's centered like all my patrons are here. So that's all automatically centered. If you want to change the centering, hit the Escape key. We're going to go down to centering. We're going to tell it centering off. So everything after the cursor is now no longer centered. So when I go back, yep, it automatically uncenters it. If I want to say right justify it, go back to the beginning of my text that I want to change. This time I'm going to hit Escape key. And I'm going to do right align. Change that to on. In theory, hit Escape. Right justifies your text. Pretty cool, huh? So it's just a couple of keystrokes, and it takes care of all of your justification. It takes care of all of your text control, everything like that, which is actually kind of cool. If we wanted to save this file, we'll hit the Commodore key. And you'll notice it comes up with all of our different options here. Load a file, save a file, verify a file, join two files, spelling checker. Let's go ahead and do the spelling checker. You're going to hit S for the spelling checker. And notice it's a capital S. Lowercase s is save a file. So we're going to do Shift S. Where's the dictionary? Okay, I've got the dictionary on my 1581 drive. I could, if I was going to be doing a lot of work, I could also move that to the RAM drive and it would do it even faster. It's going to go ahead and look in drive 4 for my dictionary. Now it's taken a while to load the dictionary in, but you see the blinking www, it has no idea what www means. So it's giving us add, skip, or change. It already read the most awesome patrons ever, visit, and it didn't find any problems. I'm going to skip that, so I'm going to hit S. It doesn't know what the word Patreon is. I'm going to add that to my dictionary because I may use that in the future. Now, it's adding that right to my dictionary, and you can add up to 8,000 of your own words. .com or com might be important to use in the future. We're going to add that one, and we're going to skip Mark. It doesn't understand the word Lawrence. Geez, it's probably going to miss a lot of these words. But you see, it goes through and it looks up the words that it can't find, and it asks you if you want to change them. So let's say, just for fun, I wanted to change this one. It is spelled correctly, but let's say I wanted to change that to a W in there. And it now changed it, and now it says Lawrence up there. And for Paul, we're going to skip. All right, so it's changed the word Lawrence Gonzalez here. Gonsalves, sorry. And you notice it's also turned it light green again, which means it's gotten rid of its formatting that I gave it, which was to make it bold. So I can just put my text right before it again, hit Control B, now it's bold again. So you can get the idea of how the spelling checker works right there. It is not the fastest thing in the world, even when going off of a 1581 drive. It can be a little bit pokey. So there would be a motivation to copy the dictionary over to the RAM drive and run it from there, because obviously it's going to be faster using the dictionary from RAM. And if you've got an RU and you're going to be doing a lot of word processing during a session, why not? We're going to hit the Commodore key. Boing. Now, first of all, let's find the dictionary name so we know what we're dealing with. I've got it on my 1581, so I'm going to hit 4. Now, that's non-destructive. My file is still actually right there. It's just called dictionary, and it's a sequential file, 559 blocks. Boy, that takes up almost an entire side of a 1541 disk. Okay, I'm going to hit enter again. Now, Commodore key. Look at my screen, and there's an option, disk command, letter C. All right. Copy file. Lower right-hand side says copy file. I'm sorry, middle right-hand side, copy file. C0 equals 2, copy to disk, or C2 equals 0, copy to RAM. It's actually supposed to be 2 equals 4, my fault, colon, dictionary. I was not reading my screen properly. Copying dictionary to RAM. That took about, maybe 40 seconds to copy that over. How do we know that the dictionary is actually there in RAM? Commodore key, directory, 0 through 9, directory of a specified drive. Let's do directory 2. We know that's the RU. Look at that, the dictionary right there. So now if I went to run my dictionary again, it would be substantially faster. Now here's another cool thing. We have a really great help system on here. If you hit the help key, which Commodore 128 has, you'll see it gives you some options up at the top. Cursor movement 1, text manipulation 2, text enhancement 3, etc. You can hit any of these buttons, and the first thing it will do is give you some basic help. To move to top of text, hit home twice. Bottom of text, hit F2. End of line, control cursor right left, etc. If you want more help, you press help again, and it comes up with this really awesome screen that gives you more detailed help about everything right here. How to maneuver around the program, and this is accessible anytime without affecting the program that's in memory. Hit Shift Help to exit out of there. If you want to read about text enhancement, we're going to hit 3. And now we're going to do help again. And it goes over all of the cool ways you can handle text and enhance text. Foreign characters, redefined characters, extra characters, superscript, subscript. The help menus are really fantastic in the program. I find them really, really useful. Copying, and pasting text is super easy. Start at the beginning of your text. We're going to do Control R, and then we're defining a range. And I'm going to do this line right here, and then Control R again. We've defined a range. Now we're going to go down to where we want to paste our text, and Control C copies it right down there. Isn't that cool? Hit Control C again, copies another copy of it. You can do large blocks of text. Again, Control R to highlight the beginning. And then we're going to just highlight a bunch of stuff right here. Why not? Control R again. We've now isolated that block of text. We're going to paste it right here, right in the middle of no place. Look at that. Copies it right over. I've now messed up my beautiful Patreon sheet here, of course. You have the ability to delete lines all at one time. So Control D, delete letter, word, sentence, or paragraph. It's looking for the first letter here. So we're going to do word. Deletes the first word. Control D to delete. We're going to delete the whole sentence. Control D, paragraph. Isn't that cool? It gives you options of what to delete or what not to delete. Let's say we have several more A3000 tier patrons in here, and we want to add them in. You can do Control Shift Insert, and it will insert lines for you, so you can now type in them. You can also do Control and then Delete. It will delete entire lines for you. Pretty cool, huh? Now, what's a word processor without printing capabilities? Let's switch cameras and take a look at that. So you see here, I've got a really nice little Okidata 120 sitting next to my Commodore 128D. All right, beautiful printer. It's one of my favorites. I really enjoy it. I also have printing capabilities built right into my Ultimate 1541 2 Plus device, that I talked about a few weeks ago. That only works currently on printer device number 4. It has the capability of changing it to 5 on the Ultimate 1541. It just doesn't work. Maybe that's a Commodore 128 specific problem. Maybe not. One of the guys who's going to be looking into it for me, we'll see. So I changed my printer to device number 5. So if I want to print and save it as a PNG file on my Ultimate 1541, I print to device 4. If I wanted to print on my printer, I send it to device 5. PocketWriter gives you cool capabilities to change that on the fly. I'm going to hit Control Shift D. Printer device number up here. 4, we're going to go ahead and change that to 5. So now it knows during this session to communicate with device 5. I can change it back to device 4 anytime I want to. We're going to go ahead and hit enter. Now, if I just want to print it out without any thinking at all, just how it is, this text will be plain text. The text in white will be bold, but let's change a little bit more of it. Let's change this to italic. Change some italic text right here. It will start printing from wherever the cursor is. So if I cursor down to here, I'm down in the middle of the screen right here, it will start printing from that point. But I want to start printing from the top. I'm going to go ahead and move up to the top, hit the Commodore key, lowercase p. See, there's lowercase p right there. I know it's a little hard to see. Uppercase P for options. Just hit lowercase p. It's going to send it right to the printer. My little guy starts printing right away. Now tell me the truth. Does your inkjet start printing that fast on your modern machine? No, probably not. Look at that. Coming out, and you see it scrolling the text on the screen exactly the same as it's printing out on the printer, which is kind of cool. And now we've got a nice little printout here. Look at there. We've got standard text here. We have bold text here. We have, where's my italics? Holy guacamole. This particular printer did not print out my italics. I'm going to have to take a look at that. But you see it prints it out very nicely, just not in italics, which is strange. So what about the other printing option here? If we go ahead and go back up to the top and we hit Commodore and then capital P, it asks us some things up at the top right here. First one, pause at the end. Let's zoom in a little tighter. Pause at the end of each page. That just means if you have one of the printers that's just single page only, like a lot of the Commodore printers were, it'll stop at the end of each page and let you load a new piece of paper. We're going to choose no. Print every other page. You would want to do that if you were going to do it double-sided and you were going to flip the paper over and print on the second side. Absolutely, you could do that. No. Merge with mail list. It gives you the option to grab the mail list, a mail list that you've created in the Pocket Filer program, which is their database, and allows you to merge it with a mailing list, which is kind of cool. We'll deal with that later. Number of copies. You want to print 10 copies? Print 10 copies. Who cares? Create disk file. This is the important thing right here. We can create a pure ASCII file right on the disk and then copy that over to our Amiga or over to our PC and open up just a regular ASCII text file and interchange the text that you've created with any other computer. So we're going to tell it, yes, create a disk file. Disk file name, we're going to call this Ooga. Okay. Global file. This is kind of cool. You would use this if you had files linked together. You've only got 64K of RAM to put your word processing files in. We're going to cover that, why it's only 64K, in just a minute. But you can link multiple files together if you're running low on memory. So if you've got a 1,000-page document to print, no big deal. Each one might be 10, 15 pages long that's stored in memory. You just link them all together and it can print them all at the same time, which is cool. Saving it to device 4 as an ASCII file. Isn't that cool? Copies it right over. Now, if we go and we look at device 4, it's created a file on here that is now in standard ASCII format. There is one little trick you have to do first, though, that I should have done in the first place. And that is at the beginning, when you choose a printer, if you're going to save it in ASCII format, just choose the ASCII printer. Right now, that's putting in special Commodore characters, which, something that we don't really need. But that ASCII file, I would be able to copy over, bring it into my Amiga, bring it into my PC, as long as you can get the file over. We've talked about creating an ASCII file. You choose an ASCII printer when you start the program. And when you go to print it, you use capital P to print, Commodore key, capital P. You choose the option to save the file to disk, and you give it a name, and you save it to disk. That's all well and good. That's no problem at all. But how do you get the darn thing over to your awesome computer, like your Amiga, or like a worthless, lame computer like a Mac or a PC? That can be a problem. If you've got something like an SD to IEC, or you have something like a Ultimate 1541, something like that, it's not a huge deal, because you can just create a virtual.d64 file that you save your files into, then bring it over into Vice, bring it over that way. There are utilities that can read .d64 files, and you just pull out an ASCII file. I'm going to do a show on data interchange with Commodore's 64s and 128s and PCs and Amigas. Now, there's also a cool utility that I use all the time on an Amiga, because Amigas are the best computers in the known universe. There is a driver that replaces track disk device with its own little device that lets you read 1581 floppies right on your Amiga. Read and write 1581 floppies on your Amiga. So I can literally pop out my disk that has my ASCII files on it or whatever that I've saved on my 1581, pop it into my Amiga. The Amiga recognizes it as a valid drive. It literally loads it up as a 1581 disk, and I can copy files right off it. I can add files right to it, pop it back in my 1581, good to go. Now, can you do that on a PC? No, because PCs suck. But you can do it on an Amiga. And so I just take these files, these ASCII files, bring them over to my Amiga, and then send those right over to my PC. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. One other thing that I'm thinking about is back in the day, me and my friends used to use our VIC-20s to talk to each other over the phone lines. I would be sitting at home on my VIC-20, and I would call my friend's phone number, and his modem would pick up, and then we'd chat back and forth typing on our VIC-20s. It was a lot of fun. We never really did anything useful with it, but it was fun. We could have interchanged files too if we wanted to. So I'm thinking the other day, why can't I do that with a PC? Set up a terminal program in the PC, set up a terminal program on my Commodore 128, which is networked, and have the two of them talk to each other, and I can just use X modem or whatever to send the ASCII file over to the PC. It's a little trickier than I thought, because nobody really uses terminal programs for receiving files on PCs anymore. I think 15 years ago on Windows XP or Windows 98 or something like that, the built-in terminal program did have receiving capabilities. I'm playing around with that. If you've got some ideas, let me know. Let's talk about a few more really awesome features that we have on the actual system right here. So if we want to count the number of words in a document, the number of paragraphs in a document, you can hit Control-Shift-W. 43 paragraphs. It decides that each one of these is a paragraph, each line. 44 sentences. Look in the upper left-hand corner. 89 words. So perfect when you're doing a report in 7th grade and the teacher says it's got to be a 2,000-word report. It will count it for you, which is actually kind of cool. You can hit Control-Shift-M, and it will tell you how many bytes free you have. Look in the upper left-hand corner, 55,342 bytes. Now, you can only use 64K of the Commodore 128's 128K to store your actual text that you're typing in. I mean, that's still a lot of typed pages. Now, why is it, you ask? Because the Commodore 128 is obviously a 128K machine. It's because the 6502 base machines really can only access 64K at a time. Everything else it has to bank switch in and out. So it uses the other memory to say, load the actual program and run the actual program. Then it dedicates 64K of its two 64K banks. One whole bank it uses to store the actual files. Now in a Commodore 64, you're going to have a lot less memory available. You probably, I think it's like 30K or 34K that you have to store files, so automatically it's half as much space. With all this extra memory though, what can we do? You see up in the top in yellow it says 64K. Watch what happens when we hit Shift-Alt. See how that went to 32K? Now why is that? That's because now that we've hit Shift-Alt, now we can hit the Alt key, and we can have two 32K files open simultaneously. So here's a blank file. Here's my patron list. Here's the blank file. We're going to load something up in here. So we're going to do Commodore. We're going to do 4, and we're going to open up this script. Now we've opened up the actual script that I'm working off of today. Let's say I want to switch back to my patron file. Hit F4. Alt. Hit Alt. It switches right back to my patron file. Isn't that cool? You can switch right between them, and it does not hurt either one. I can do my Control-Shift-M. I've got 11K left to work with on here. Go back over here. Control-Shift-M. I've got 19K left to work with on my patron file page. Isn't that cool? Now look what we can do. I'm going to hit Control-R, and I'm going to select this entire paragraph right here. I'm going to hit Control R. I've now blocked off that entire paragraph. Hit the Alt key. I'm back in my patron list. Control C. You can copy and paste right between the two files that you have opened up. So you got two text files opened up, two word processing files. You can copy and paste between them all day long. That's pretty cool if you ask me. So seriously, this is a powerful word processor. I can access all of my devices. I can print to multiple printers. I can have two different physical printers on here, print to whichever one I want, anytime I want to, save to all kinds of different devices, change your text, change your formatting, copy and paste, have multiple files in memory simultaneously. Now, this was available in the late 90s to the late 80s to the early 90s when everyone was using DOS-based WordPerfect, okay? Now, was WordPerfect more powerful? Absolutely. It was also $700 or so. Did people need to use all of those WordPerfect features? Probably not. This probably handles 90% of everything WordPerfect did. Now, you can't use all kinds of fancy fonts and the big fancy text and characters like you can with Geos or you could on a Mac or anything like that. But then again, WordPerfect didn't really do that either. It was pretty much just text-based until some of the later Windows-based versions. This was literally all most small businesses needed back in the late 80s and even into the early 90s. And even now, it does what I need it to do. And that being that the PocketWriter, which is this, Pocket Planner, the spreadsheet, and Pocket Filer, the database, all work together, you could literally take the files and move them between the different applications with no problem at all. You create a graph in Pocket Filer or Pocket Planner, and you could take that graph and print it out right from PocketWriter. You have a document with all kinds of contact information and addresses in the database. You can mail merge it with this. It reads the files just fine, which is kind of cool. So it's like having an Office suite. You're just not running all the suites simultaneously. It's not an Amiga after all. It's a Commodore 128. So this is the kind of tool, this is the kind of program I've been looking for about 4 years on the Commodore 128. I've tried a bunch of them. I experiment with them. I like them all. But this is the one I've really been looking for years. I use this several times a week for real use. The spreadsheet program, I use it almost daily. I keep an actual spreadsheet on there. And when I do my spreadsheet video, I'll show you what I do there. You know, I can understand you had a Commodore 128 in the late 80s, even into the early 90s, and you've got a suite of nice 80-column packages that do what you need them to do. Why do you need a PC? Why would you need an Amiga? It literally can handle almost everything that you need. Actually pretty cool. Now I'm on the lookout for the full versions of Pocket Planner and Pocket Filer version 2.0. I did find the version 1.0s. I bought those. They're still sealed in the original 1980s plastic, which is really cool. We'll open up those together during the actual shows that I do on those. But I'd really like the physical version 2 versions. I just really like to have the real thing in my hand. It's kind of fun. Huge thanks to my awesome patrons who you see printing out right here on my lovely Okidata 120 printer. You guys are absolutely awesome. I appreciate everything you do to support my channel. If you'd like to become a member of this illustrious group and be able to get printed out on a 9-pin Okidata printer, pop on over to patreon.com/10mark and sign yourself up. Thanks, guys. And look at them all. So thank you for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. I love this kind of stuff, and I hope you guys do too. If you like these shows about productivity software on the Commodore 128 and eventually the Commodore 64, why not give it a like? Why not subscribe to my channel? Why not drop me a message on Facebook or Blue Sky or Instagram or something like that. I'm on all those social medias and such. But until next time, this is Doug from 10 Minute Amiga Retrocast, signing out.